All right, if you're an aspiring creator staring down a blank canvas right now, wondering how to actually make your mark, this explainer is for you. Today, we're diving deep into the anatomy of a true artistic legend. We're going to unpack one single, powerful concept that literally holds the key to elevating your craft from, simple representation to absolute brilliance. We're talking about an artist whose pure obsession with perfection changed the trajectory of art forever. But first, we got to start with a really profound question about legacy. Think about it. How does a painter capture fleeting, fragile nature, stuff that literally wilts and fades in a matter of days, and lock it onto a static canvas so perfectly that it achieves immortality? Like, how does an artwork keep breathing and captivating people centuries after the artist put down their brush for the very last time? It's a puzzle every art student wrestles with, right? That delicate balance between catching a temporary moment and basically transcending time itself.
And that puzzle brings us to this foundational quote from our source material. Jan van Huysum is a master of detailed floral still life. It sounds simple at first glance, but within that sentence is a complete blueprint for your own artistic journey. If we look closely at his incredible catalog of works, paintings that, by the way, fetched absolutely staggering sums even while he was alive, we find a masterclass on how to approach the canvas. Royalty across Europe were literally clamoring to own his pieces. He wasn't just painting flowers, he was engineering a level of illusion that nobody had ever seen before.
So, let's jump into our first section, the genius of floral still life.
To really grasp the standard Van Huysum set, we first need to understand the genre he totally dominated. Still life isn't just, dropping a bowl of fruit or some flowers on a table and painting it. Historically, the term translates across different languages to concepts like quiet life or even dead nature. And the monumental challenge here is that you have to breathe vibrant, undeniable life into completely static, inanimate objects. You're taking things that have been severed from their life source and trying to resurrect them in oil and pigment.
Now, the floral still life narrows that focus and just dramatically spikes the difficulty. Why? Because you are dealing with an absolute, unapologetic obsession with the organic and the fragile. You aren't painting stone or metal. You're trying to capture delicate petals that are actively decaying the second they get cut. You're basically racing against time. And here's a crazy fact about Van Huysum. He was so devoted to authenticity, he'd sometimes leave a painting unfinished for an entire year. Yeah, a full year, just waiting for one specific, rare flower to bloom in a local garden so he could paint it exactly from life. He flat out refused to rely on his imagination when reality offered such intricate perfection.
Which brings us to our next big question. What does it mean to be a master?
In the art world, master is definitely not a term you throw around lightly. It implies a level of dedication, deep knowledge, and consistency that totally transcends ordinary artistry. A master doesn't just copy what they see, they understand the very architecture of their subject. In fact, Van Huysum was famously secretive about his methods to protect that master status. Get this, he worked in absolute isolation. He even forbade his own brothers from entering his studio. He knew the magic he was creating was singular, born from a unique alchemy of skill and relentless perfectionism, and he guarded it fiercely.
This level of conceptual mastery really boils down to three core elements you've got to cultivate. First up, absolute patience. You just cannot rush nature, and as Van Huysum proved by waiting whole seasons for a single blossom, you can't rush the work either. Second, relentless observation. You have to look harder and longer than anyone else, spotting those microstructures everyone else just ignores. And third, unerring precision. Your hand has to perfectly execute what your hyper-observant eye is seeing. No room for hesitation. Every stroke has to be a deliberate, confident translation of reality.
Moving on to Section 3, the magic of small details.
The obsessive focus required for this genre is entirely anchored in the word detailed. It's about rendering the reflection of a studio window inside a tiny dewdrop, or the translucent, thread-like veins of a fragile leaf. And for art students wondering how they achieve this breathtaking illusion of three-dimensional volume on a flat canvas, it's all about painstaking layering techniques. Instead of just mixing a flat color on a palette and slapping it on, masters like Van Huysum built up thin, transparent layers of oil paint called glazes, one over the other. Light literally passes through these translucent layers and bounces back off the opaque underpainting. That meticulous buildup is what creates that luminous depth, making a painted grape look juicy or a rose petal look soft enough to actually touch.
So as an aspiring painter standing there in front of your easel, you got to ask yourself a highly practical question. How do you convey life in a static painting? When your subject is completely still,
Like a cut flower sitting in a vase on a marble slab, how do you make the viewer feel like that flower is actively blooming, reaching for the light, practically trembling on the canvas? How do you overcome the flatness of your medium to create an experience of vibrant, pulsing life?
Well, the answer, straight from our source text, is through painstaking detail. Life isn't found in broad, careless strokes when you're working in this genre. Life is found in the minutiae. It's the tiny imperfections on a stem, the hidden thorns, the little ants crawling over a peony, or the exact microscopic shift in color where warm light hits a cool shadowed petal. Detail is literally the vehicle for life. It's how the artist convinces the viewer's eye that they aren't looking at a simulation, but reality itself, just paused for a split second.
Adopting this microscopic view completely shifts your mindset. A master doesn't just paint a flower, they paint the microscopic universe contained within a single petal. They zoom in so closely that a single bloom becomes a massive landscape of texture, light, and shadow. If you look closely at Van Huysum's catalog, you're going to see tiny drops of sap, powdery pollen on the stamen, or a lone fly just resting on a leaf. When you adopt this perspective, your paintings stop being mere pictures. They become immersive, living worlds that reward the viewer more and more the closer they look.
Okay, let's wrap this up with our final section, Lessons for New Creators.
Your core takeaways from the source material are right here. First, embrace your genre and study the catalog of masters like Jan van Huysum as your absolute standard. Let his obsession with capturing nature be your benchmark. Second, obsess over the details. Let meticulous execution and optical layering dictate your brushwork. Use those translucent glazes to build up that illusion of volume and luminous depth. And finally, don't settle for just being good. Strive to become a master of your chosen subject. Let that pursuit of absolute perfection drive every single stroke you make. So, I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder as you step back up to your easel today. Knowing that immortality in art is built on profound patience and unerring precision, where will you find your own mastery in the details? What meticulous, overlooked things will you focus on to define your own artistic legacy? Keep observing, keep refining, and let the details bring your canvas to life. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.